statistics from Polis Diraja Malaysia or the Royal Malaysian Police, 1,218 sexual harassment cases were reported between 2013 and 2017. Out of these, about 21% or 257 sexual harassment cases involved male victims. It was also reported that from 2015 to 2017 alone, 47 civil servants were sentenced to disciplinary action for offences related to sexual harassment. In the private sector, only 60 cases had been reported. However, the authorities believe that there are many more cases that are unreported. It is believed that the public stigma potentially faced by victims of sexual harassment is why victims decide not to report. You may know someone who is a victim but had refused to report. Today, we will discuss about sexual harassment among female and male workers at the workplace. Sexual harassment usually occurs in the workplace. There is no specific definition for sexual harassment, and neither is there a specific law for sexual harassment in Malaysia.
Sexual harassment is an unwanted act. It's an unwanted act towards the sexual nature. So that is the definition under our Employment Act.
Sexual harassment is not a disorder, it's a form of violence. Sexual harassment basically is any sexual behavior that results in someone feeling unwelcome. That means you didn't invite this person to harass you, and it's also uninvited lah.
In Section 2 of the Employment Act 1955, sexual harassment is defined as any unwanted conduct of a sexual nature, whether verbal, non-verbal, visual, gestural, or physical, directed at a person which is offensive or humiliating or is a threat to his well-being arising out of and in the course of his employment.
As a government servant, if a sexual harassment happens, our venue is go through the public sector. It's called JPA for us to make a complaint. So for the private sector, it's covered under the Employment Act. We covered all employees irrespective of their occupation and their wages. So anyone, either is a male or female employees who are encounter a sexual harassment, they can come to make a complaint through our Labour Department. But they also have another venue to complain through their employees.
Besides these two, there must be an element whereby it also affects, if you're talking about workforce, it affects the benefits of the person. It could be their salary, it could be a promotion, it could be the job itself. So for sexual harassment at the workplace, it is any sexual behavior that causes a harassment, and it has many different forms: physical, verbal, visual, etc.
I worked for an organization whereby my manager was in her late 40s. Everything was well and fine in the beginning. It all started with a WhatsApp message, voice notes, and picture message containing sexual elements. I felt really uncomfortable receiving such messages. This became worse when I was due for my promotion. My manager started harassing and threatening me that in order for me to be promoted, I must accommodate her needs and wants. This really shook me up, as I thought this kind of harassment only happens to women. But when it happened to me, I couldn't comprehend it. When things became worse, I decided to report this matter to the Ministry of Human Resource, MOHR, who is the authority in charge. It was indeed a very technical process for me, because in order to establish a fault on someone or the offender, there must be sufficient evidence to prove the offence beyond reasonable doubt. Luckily, I had all the WhatsApp messages and proofs that helped me to strengthen my position in this case. I then realized there's no specific legislation concerning sexual harassment that would protect the rights of employees as victims when harassed. I would urge the Malaysian government to enact a specific legislation to protect our rights and hinder this kind of harassment from taking place at work.
According to Kamal Halili Hassan and Yi Jingli 2015, prior to the enactment of the new provisions into the Employment Act 1955, the guidelines for sexual harassment were in the form of a code of practices. The Sexual Harassment Code was known as the Code of Practice on the Prevention and Eradication of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. This was prepared by the Ministry of Human Resources to address the problem harassment means any unwanted conduct of a sexual nature having the effect of verbal, non-verbal, visual, psychological, or physical harassment that might, on reasonable grounds, be perceived by the recipient as placing a condition of a sexual nature on his or her employment, or that might, on reasonable grounds, be perceived by the recipient as an offense or humiliation or a threat to his or her well-being, but has no direct link to his or her employment.